I may try to understand.
Okay. My problem is the foundation of dignity is that I think that there is something wrong there. Wrong is a gap between theory and I will call it common sense. I don't know if I can call it this, but I think the theory is always focusing on something that we say that we are special as a species, and so we are looking for dignity or autonomy or something like this. But always when we are using examples like torture or something like this, behind we are talking about suffering and we are talking about our vulnerability as human beings. So I think that there is a point, a strong point for not only for human rights, and maybe we are all the time talking about this kind of rights, something special. Because if we talk about suffering and vulnerability, we have the open door for animals, for others, and we are always looking only for human beings. But I really think that behind human rights there is something stronger than dignity, and always we are pointing there. We are when we are coming for the extreme examples, then we can see it, and maybe we have a gap.
I think I understand your point.
We are looking for something so special to define human being, and maybe the moral values are connected with our vulnerability and our capacity of suffering, for example. But
I think you are saying two things, and you are a little bit mixing them together. The first thing you are saying is what should count in a foundation is not so much focus on human dignity, but on human vulnerability.
yes.
So what is wrong, as I was saying yesterday about torture, intuitively, is not that you are limiting my freedom of movement, or that you are not, taking into account the fact that I am a moral being. The fact that you make me suffer a lot, that's what's wrong about torture. Now, you are skeptical that by focusing on human dignity, you can account, you can accommodate this deep intuition. The second thing that you are saying is that, which is not completely unrelated, actually kind of follows from this general focus that you are proposing on pain as opposed to human dignity, is to say that if we focus on pain and vulnerability, then we can no longer restrict certain protections to humans only, because of course it may be the case that rational behavior is a peculiarity only of humans, but certainly not the case that the vulnerability is a peculiarity of the human animals, right? Well, that's a huge question. Let me try to say something not too long, or let me try to say something period. Okay, the problem I have with thinking of human rights in terms of avoidance of pain or protection of our vulnerability is the fact that usually we don't think in general of morality as primarily directed to the avoidance of pain. It's painful to go to jail. It's painful to receive punishments, even if not cruel or degrading, but we also think that it's just. So that's a very simple thought, I realize, but it tells you that the idea of avoiding pain cannot be our guidance in the moral world, and I don't think also in the business of human beings, because you need to tell me when I have a right to have my vulnerability taken into consideration. remember the point I was making yesterday. It's not true that human rights are inalienable. Sometimes you lose your human rights depending on the behavior that you choose to have. It's a problematic point. I mean, Nagel thinks this way. So, my short and very unsatisfactory response to your first point, your main point, is to say that we won't get very far if instead of these kind of moral values we put avoidance of pain.
I think that it's not avoidance of pain. Pain is an aspect of this that you can. Okay, it's an aspect. But I think that the question, the point is really vulnerability. That in different aspects of vulnerability, there are aspects that are intrinsic, but there are also aspects that are social aspects that we can prevent. So it's not only pain. I understand that pain has also positive aspects, or that we can use pain in a certain way. So it's not pain, but it's suffering. Sometimes I can feel pain, but it's not.
It's not unjust.
And it's not so big problem. I need to feel.
So you are talking about undeserved pain.
Yes.
Unjust pain.
Unjust.
Well, and what I'm
Something like this.
saying is that in order to make that distinction between just or non-morally relevant pain and unjust and morally relevant pain, you have to step out this focus on vulnerability per se. You have to decide, give me criterion to distinguish between just and unjust pain. The second point I wanted to make is that I am sympathetic with the idea of limiting the anthropocentric nature of human rights and not to make the mistakes of our fathers or grandfathers to think that we are, these special creatures, because simply we know by now that at most we have certain features that are fairly sophisticated in us, reasoning, moral behavior, but they are not, strictly speaking, our peculiarity. So something that we have and other species do not have at all. Even morality in higher mammals, in primates, there are traces of it. So you want to have a distinction, if you still want a distinction between humans and non-humans, that is in terms of degree, not in terms of kind, okay? Now, but at the same time, you want to have a distinction between humans and non-humans, unless you are like Peter Singer. If you say that, this talk is really just a new version of racism, that human rights, in a sense, are just racism taken one level up, which is speciesism, which I disagree with for reasons that would be a little bit too long to explain. I mean, the reason being that we have a special concern for human beings, not because human beings simply happen to belong to this specific species, it's fantastic, particular species, but because they embody certain features. I mean, I would say, for example, capacity for moral behavior, that even non-human entities sometimes embody. So we have empathy for, like, just to give you the example of Kagan, we have empathy for E.T., Spielberg's character, because he shows certain things that also humans embody. We have sympathy for Superman because the guy shows certain things that we embody. So we are not speciesist. We are, if anything, concerned with personhood. That is, a series of features that we think that they are intrinsically good, that they are intrinsically worth of protection, and that we humans simply happen to embody more than other species, but other species might also as well, and entities, fictional entities to which we are attached, also embody. So Peter Singer is wrong. We are not speciesist. The point is not belonging to the human species. The point is what the human species embodies. So the emphasis is what we show, what we embody as a species, not the fact that we are this species. I don't know if... Okay, so more later.